Do you want a battery-powered house? Well, stick around because we got something special for you. Step by step with a little bonus at the end. Here we go.
Everything that comes in the box is pretty simple. You've got your unit, an AC power cord, a QR code for the user manual, your 5-year warranty card, and 2 solar splitters to get the max solar input of 2400 watts for this unit. The unit will not power up when you originally get it. It must be plugged in with that AC cord, but in our case at least, the battery did power up with about 87%, so it's not dead, it just is a safety precaution of some kind. At this weight, I would put this at the top of the portable battery class. I wouldn't want to go any bigger than this, but I still think you could take this along camping. It's got beautiful ball bearing wheels, which allow it to glide smoothly. All the handle access and the general form factor make it usable outside of the home, but its capacity is probably best suited for a stationary spot in the home. At second look, these MC4 splitters join into MC4 connectors, and there's XT60 connectors on the unit. Kind of a bummer. I'm sure there's an adapter out there, probably from Anker, but a bit of a nuisance to get your solar, whether portable or home mounted, into the unit. Anker's simple home backup solution option on their website includes a NEMA 1450 generator cord and Reliance Controls generator panel, also known as a manual transfer switch. So if your power goes out, you will have to make it to this location in order to switch on your critical loads, but it is as easy as flipping a switch without backfeeding the grid. Inside this box, you've got your generator connection input port, several MC connectors included, some metal flex for running behind your wall or in front of it, and the manual transfer switch itself with plenty of length in all of the wire whips, along with clear instructions on how to wire it up. This panel allows easy bypass for all of these circuits when it's in the line position. It still offers an off position if you need to do any maintenance, but in the generator position, these circuits will draw power straight from the F3800. This is actually the exact same unit that you'd use for a gas-powered generator. Your tool needs for this job are extremely simple. You'll need a drill for boring back into the wall and up into your panel, either a driver or a screwdriver for your panel cover screws, and then one for your internal breakers as well for terminating the wires. Depending on your location from the panel, you'll also need some wire stripper cutters. That's about it. Before bringing out any of your tools though, circuit identification is the first thing that you really need to do. The breaker value is a maximum value, so don't assume that you only have 50 amps worth of the listed breaker value. Even though your lights may be on a 15 amp breaker, if they're not on, they're not drawing 15 amps. So just know that you can select as many things as you want, but you may get overload. At the same time, you don't have to select so few things that your quality of life diminishes on backup power. Before you crack out any of the tools though, it's actually time for circuit identification while your labels are still visible on your panel cover, because that's about to come off. The generator panel, the manual transfer switch, has 2 slots for 2 pole breakers, 2 40-volt circuits. Those are things like your dryer and your AC are probably the major culprits, maybe a well, which is the case here. And then you have 6 additional circuits, which can be up to 20 amp breakers. However, this unit ships with 15 amp breakers in those slots. They will just need to be replaced if that's what you're powering. Before we crank out any of those tools, we actually got to go back to the basics. Some simple tape and a pen, because we're going to identify which circuits we want to be in our backup power. Now, you can't power everything, but it is important to think through what things you would still need in a low power situation. Here's where the tape comes in. When we remove this panel cover, all the labels are coming with it. So if you lay out a stretch of tape on a piece of cardboard, cut out each section having labeled, and then stick your tape directly on the breakers, it'll make it significantly easier when we're connecting up our generator panel wire whip to find the breakers that you're looking for. For example, the homeowner is on well water, so when they lose power, they also lose water. That's an easy pick for one of their 2-pole spots in the generator inlet box. I'm gonna label well on my tape. I find that in their panel on the label, and I stick it directly to the breaker. Now let's do the rest of these. Two key details in taking off panel cover screws. Number one, leave the top two for last so that the panel is always hanging right and not askew. And number two is to brace the panel cover as you take off that second to last screw and the last screw. Otherwise, it's possible for it to tumble into the panel, create a connection that we don't want, and get a serious arc flash. Now we're gonna rock it out top down, let it fall out. And we're clear. Be mindful, we've not killed the main breaker yet. So the bus behind all of these circuits is live. These are especially dangerous, and these lugs, and all of our circuits are energized. If you are not comfortable with this, now's a good time to turn off the main. These wires are from the utility and will still be live along with those lugs, but none of your circuits or the bus will be energized. If you're still not comfortable with this, call an electrician. We have some space restraints given to us here. We can't go above the panel because the National Electrical Code requires that overcurrent protection, such as breakers, be lower than 6'7". So we can only go below. However, we also want the Anker SOLIX F3800 to sit flush beneath this panel. In order to do that, we're gonna need to be right up to the bottom of the panel, and we're actually going to relocate the wire whip from the bottom out these knockouts in the back. In fact, we're probably just gonna use this one, come up through the panel, and then we'll be able to feed all of our wires to the necessary circuits. If you're of the mind to work smarter, not harder, by removing the 4 screws on the face of the manual transfer switch and the 2 screws on the top, you can remove all of the circuitry and use just the enclosure for your lining up and mounting purposes. 2 quick modifications that we need to make in our installation that you may not. First off, we didn't want to come out of the bottom of the box because, number one, we are outside of the wall and need to get into the wall. Number two, we need to run our wires back up to the panel. This one is not sitting next to it, and therefore we give ourselves a little more wire length this way. And 3, that's gonna make our metal flex a little bit too long, so we're gonna trim this down too. When we do that, it is important to note that there's a little red bushing which is gonna protect your wire from the jagged metal edges of the metal flex. Make sure you remove that and don't cut through it, and then after you're cut, reinstall it. Sorry, I'm making a mess. We've cut out our entry into the drywall, and I've fished my longest screwdriver back through the installation so that I can drive my metal flex up to that point. However, before I do that, it's good to put the connector, which is gonna hold it to the box, onto the end of the metal flex. All right, with our metal flex resized, we're gonna install it onto the manual transfer switch first. You'll see there's a little lip for its ending point. And we're gonna take our screws that we removed earlier, and then we wanna pinch down but not crush. Wanna make sure that we can't pull the conduit free, but we also don't wanna minimize the interior dimension. Alrighty, our box is mounted. Now we're ready for wiring. With the main box mounted and our conduit run through the wall, now we can feed our wires through the conduit and mount the panel segment, the breaker segment, back onto this box. I don't really have any pro tips for this. If you need to, go one wire at a time to make it an easier pull. Otherwise, get as many as you can for efficiency's sake. Here goes nothing. I lied, I do have one pro tip for you, and that would be to tape all of your wires together into one nice wire head, so that the wires can support one another. You can pull them all at the same time.
So you'll see at the front here, we've staggered the conductors. Each one of these edges needs to be well taped because it's the potential that's going to snag on the shoulder of the fitting. So I'm going to be thoughtful about that. And then you can see a little bit of crisscross applesauce on the conductors here. That's going to thicken up the overall bunch. So we're going to tape it a little bit more and make sure that that bundle's real snug. And then we'll pre-shape it, turning this into a bit more of a 90 so it can make that curve with less resistance on the backside. When you're roofing, you want to think like water. When you're a wireman, you want to think like wire. There it is. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. A little bit more. Pop quiz for you electricians out there. What's the maximum length that a section of conduit can be and still be considered a nipple by the National Electrical Code? And then what's the maximum fill rating of that conduit nipple? Drop your thoughts in the comments. You know what might be going on right here? There's it makes me think of a new restaurant across town. It's called Karma. There's no menu. You just get what you deserve. Can't beat that hawk bill.
The old hawk bill.
The old hawk bill. It's not that it will never use a traditional knife again, but yeah, I like it. It's got a great look. You know, there's something about a knife. You want it to feel good, work good, but you also want it to look good. Like a sexy knife is just, it's better than a not sexy knife. If you disagree, let me know. That's my opinion. Let's verify our stay-cons are all fully seated and nothing's pulled loose. It's looking good. No trauma to the little connectors, wires, a little tug test. Good. CTs are closed. They're not split CTs, so of course they're closed. All right, that looks good. We're gonna go ahead and mount this and then pull the conductors one at a time until we get this nice clean finish inside we're looking for. And be careful when we're laying stuff in here that nothing gets pinched. There's enough room for everybody to play nicely on this playground. There it is. Now my next question, where are mounting screws?
Right here.
Oh, look at Tim and his Magneto. You gotta be careful with some of these little fasteners that you don't strip them out. Use an appropriately sized tool, don't overdo it. I would not use a power tool in any of these connections. It's just probable you're gonna strip the screw. So, as you can see, it's pretty tight. Our advice, phone a friend. Use electrical tape. Consider a product like this on that electrical tape to smooth the pull, or wire pulling loop made for electricians. And yeah, it's a bit of a beast, but it's done. Let's mount the outlet in the front right of the manual transfer switch and get this buttoned up and move up top. Let's see the power cord. I want to get that in there with the right orientation so that power cord, if it's a 90 degree, hangs down
It's right behind you.
nice, or possibly sideways to avoid the equipment itself. If you've not seen the inside of these terminals before, in this particular case, they come closed. And you've got to go lefty-loosey to open that up. And you'll see how the clamp expands and becomes wire ready. You'll also notice how each terminal is labeled YGW and X. Let's check the instructions and make sure we get that installed correctly. Nice English instruction manual. Super simple half pager here. We've got torque setting 20 to 25 inch-pounds. We'll pull that out. G is green, W is white, and X and Y for the hot terminals, black and red, and they'll be interchangeable. Make certain there are no loose strands outside the wire chamber. Good advice. Make certain there's no wire insulation under any terminal clamp. Also good advice. 4 to 8 gauge copper conductors. Do not use aluminum. There it is, about 23 inch-pounds. It's in the spec range. Let's tighten it down. Boom. So you'll see that green is ground. It's in the G terminal. It's entirely inserted, no loose strands. I give it a tug test, and that click on the torque screwdriver meant it was topped off. All right. Black will go to X or Y. It's convenient for me in this case to slip it in there on the X terminal. There it is. Visual inspection. Tug test. Hello. That popped right out. Let's try it again. Let's go all the way up to 25 inch-pounds. Still loose. Dang. What's happening is the clamp is tightening down on itself before compressing the wire. And it did say 4 to 8 gauge copper. Here we have 10, but that's what's supplied. Read the manual, did a little troubleshooting. The wire gauge provided here is 10. Technically, these terminals are rated for 4 to 8 gauge conductors. So what I've done is I've stripped back the wire a little bit and folded it over on itself. Black is going in the X terminal. I'm gonna make sure I get every single conductor inside of the terminal. There's X, here's Y. I'm gonna use a standard screwdriver to bring that thing in, and then I'll torque them all down when I'm done. Tug test. Oh yeah, world of difference. All right, that's what we're looking at there. I'm gonna pull some of this neutral through. So I've got plenty up here and nothing to fight down below. And we're ready for the next step. All right, a little loss of momentum. Let's recapture. So that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna add a neutral bar right there. Rip this out of my stash. Take my pencil, mark my 3 holes. 2 for mounting, 1 on either side. And then here, my green ground screw is gonna be penetrated right there into the panel. The main breaker at the top of this panel is my service disconnecting means. There's no exterior disconnect in this installation. So that means neutrals and grounds, you can see on the side here, are common, and they're so congested. There are 2, 3, or even 4 conductors per terminal. Not gonna tackle that today, that'll be a change order, but what I will do is I'll accommodate down here at the bottom a new set of neutrals and grounds and make sure it's solidly and electrically connected to the panel and the existing neutral bar at the top right. Here we go. So what have I done there? Well, 832 Greenlee drill tap combo. My drill is on low torque, low speed, and I'm applying low pressure. These bits are a little bit fragile. You can see that they're eaten away with those tap threads. And what I'm doing now is I've matched my drill tap selection to the screw size for my mounted screws on either side, and then I'll transition to 1032 for my ground screw. My ground screw is a little bit thicker. 832 here, 1032 there. Let's begin terminating our conductors. Here's the neutral. Boom. This is a stranded conductor, so I'm going to do the wiggle seat method. As I tighten it down, I want those strands to seat in there. You can tell it starts putting pressure on it. Wiggle it, wiggle that conductor. Get a good fit. Nope, see how there's still loose strands, so I'm gonna loosen it up. Give it another wiggle. Bring it on down. I want it to sit nicely on the whole family. One more time. There it is. All right, neutral's all set. On to the next. Solid and copper wires have a different OD. So you'll notice on your strippers, they're marked 14, 12, 10, etc. That's the solid side, and that refers to conductor gauge, American wire gauge. If you flip it over, you'll notice it's here too, also says solid. What you want to be mindful of, this is a stranded conductor. So as I'm using 10 solid on a 10 stranded conductor, I'm not going to pinch it down all the way because this set of stranded conductors is actually a little bit larger. So I'm going to take it easy, and slip it off. And that's going to prevent scoring of those individual strands such that they would become weak and shear off under stress. Just a little nuance of the stranded conductor. What's about to happen here is I'm going to turn the entire house offline, and that's so I can extract this main grounding electrode conductor, bring it through my new neutral bar and back up here to provide massive electrical continuity. So here it goes. The house is ready. 3, 2, 1. Avert your eyes. Boom. We still have light because we're operating on battery power. All right, let's get in there and take this bugger apart. I think I've identified the correct terminal. Oh, everything around here is like super torqued. Not too bad. A couple minutes later and a little more forearm strength, and we'll be there. Guys, there's more money in these jobs than in new work jobs, where everything's clean and fresh, but this is why some guys don't like the service repair kind of side of things, despite the extra money margin and better hourly rates that you're going to bill and that you're going to make and that you're going to pay your guys. It's because of the tedium of little micro challenges where you're busting your butt but you don't feel like you've accomplished anything. I think I might have it. Yep. That's it. We've got reds are lines and blacks are loads. It's alphabetical order. Line comes before load. Line is first. So what does that mean? Well, this is how you wire it up. Every one of these conductors is labeled. So you'll see in this case that we've got A and B, and it's labeled periodically every inch and a half down the length of the conductor. A, B, and A, B. So I'm going to take A phase, which is this one, this one, this one, this one, this one. In this case happens to be the top. The power is off, so I'm not concerned about that right now. I'm going to flip that off. Remove wiring from the breaker. And now I've got 2 loose wires here. And I'm just going to interrupt. Is all I'm going to do. I'm going to take power from the breaker, send it down on the red, and bring it back on the black and connect here. So take the A conductor in a semi-neat and orderly fashion. Bring it up to phase A. Oop, a little bit more on that. Again, make sure every strand is in the terminal and no insulation is under the terminal. And then because it's stranded, just give it a little wiggle as you tighten. We'll come back and torque everything so it's snug for now. There's one. I'm going to repeat this with B. It's going to go there. That's what we're looking at. Cut. Strip. Typically for breakers, you're going to be stripping about a 1/2 inch. Often newer breakers will specify the strip gauge. It'll be on the front or side, often the side of the breaker. 1/2 inch, 5/8 is about what we're looking at. See, I just made a mistake. That's a Phillips, and that's a square drive terminal. That will not be a good fit. I'll be spinning and stripping. No bueno. Little wiggle, little seat. That number 2 square right there. Oh, it's just pure gold. That's it. That's what you want to do electrical work. A number 1 and a number 2 square. All right, so that's in. Now, in corresponding fashion, I'll take my A and my B conductors, route them up neatly with the others, and I'm going to cut. I'm going to straighten my A out first. I'm going to bend that over. I'm going to cut and strip right there. Use an appropriately sized wire nut. In this case, I'm using a red. Straighten this guy out. Same with B. And when you're putting these wire nuts on, a couple of things. You want to match up the ends of the conductors as you saw me do, and then you want to twist with an appropriately sized wire nut, give it a tug test. Sometimes a stranded to a solid conductor can be a little bit tough because they act differently, but that's it. When we're done making the terminations, we're gonna pretty that up. Right now, I'm just gonna leave that hanging and out of my space. Rinse and repeat down the entire length of the panel for the full 8 circuits. Then we're gonna be backed up, throw the switch, and check it all out. I'm gonna restore power to the house and do the rest of this with the breakers live. That's not necessarily my recommendation. I'm just going to provide that convenience to the homeowners because they are present. Wow, that is one soggy breaker. That thing does not have a ton of life left in it. Probably the next sale here is a panel upgrade. Little beautification going on here. I don't recommend zip tying all your hots together on one side of the panel because this is actually considered conductor bundling, and you've got to be conscious of that. These stranded conductors are much more loosey-goosey, and you're never going to get them to lay in there like that unless you put some control on them. And we've got a modest amount of conductors, so I'm okay with that. But again, maintain some serviceability and some order. And there's a little bit of balance to that. Nothing in a panel is permanent. As you can see, we're in here changing things up. And it won't be the last time. Circuits are on, critical loads are running. It's time to employ our tests. I'm gonna go ahead and put the panel cover on here, and we will take next steps to show you exactly how it works with battery power, generator power, and then folks, it's gonna be a wrap. Now this battery is a beast. I mean, it's a lift, but it rolls real smooth. All right, we're gonna transition from shore power to battery power. Take our 50 amp Reliance Controls cord, stick it in, mild twist, about a 16th, maybe an 1/8 to the right. That's called a twist lock, and now it won't pull out. It's time to transition our circuits. This is going to represent the loss of grid power. Boom, critical circuits going offline. Output 1084 watts. We'll see that increase as things come online. The fridge is coming up. Furnace is coming up. There's the blower motor. That's the microwave. G is off. 3, 2, 1. So these analog watt meters are pretty cool. The left one, meter 1, measures a phase or every other breaker location down the line, A, C, E, etc. Watt meter 2 measures the other circuits, and obviously in this situation we've got a digital output on the battery. However, here goes the analog read. The flip lid has got your breaker labels on the inside. Real handy, A through J, 10 circuit, ProTran 2 manual transfer switch. There it is. So if you're not an electrician, you might be asking the question, how do I transition back to shore power? It's easy. Line, line, line. Everything's now in the down position. Come back up top to your breakers and turn them on. Shore power is now enabled by circuit. We are re-energizing well pump, air conditioning, guest bath, utilities, microwave, kitchen, furnace, refrigerator. Got him. Now that, my friends, is a portable, affordable product from Anker. Minimum effort, maximum power. It's the Anker SOLIX F3800. Check the description for a limited time discount code from Anker for you. And if you're looking for a great price from a solar contractor near you, check the description as well. And subscribe to Electric Pro Academy for real skills to make real money.